We each have memories of our youth, good and bad, but not many grew up at one of the world's most infamous prisons.
Because I view it so much differently than those that were locked up. It was my home.
Sue Johnson's father was a prison guard on Alcatraz. She lived there until she was 14 years old.
It was like living in a small town, but it was really unique because all the guards made the same amount of money. There wasn't a class system. Everybody got along, and if they didn't, they were escorted off the island.
The isolated land was a treasure box of adventures.
From one side of the island to the other, there was always a real strong breeze, and we'd get our roller skates and put sheets behind us and blow across the island.
75% of Alcatraz was a guardhouse for America's most appalling convicts, but a quarter of the island was a cherished community.
This is the only part of the island that the people lived on. It's right down here.
Johnson grew up in this house, only a short distance where some of the world's worst criminals were confined. But she says her childhood on Alcatraz always felt safe and secure.
I did not know I was supposed to be scared because my dad never brought anything home. He never told us anything that was going on in the prison.
Only years later did Johnson's eyes open up to a harrowing reality.
There was a rule on the island that if there was a prison break and it was a hostage situation, they would have killed us. The prisoners could not get off the island. I didn't know that.
She says the island was shadowed with secrets.
One prison break, my mother was in San Francisco. They wouldn't let her back on the island for 24 hours till they secured it. She knew nothing. She didn't know if it was a major prison break where we all killed or anything. Nobody knew anything that was going on out there.
Life on Alcatraz wasn't always bliss. Johnson reminisces on some darker memories.
When we got off the school boat, all the sirens are going off. We knew something bad was happening.
She remembers the chilling details.
It was a big black blob in the water, all bloated up, and it had crabs all over it. It was one of the prisoners that had tried to escape.
Alcatraz is infamous in part because of some of the legendary figures it housed. The Prohibition mobster Al Capone. George Kelly Barnes, we know him as Machine Gun Kelly. Then there's Lucky Luciano, known as the father of organized crime, and Robert Stroud, aka the Birdman of Alcatraz. Johnson actually rubbed shoulders with the convicted murderer.
He rode the school boat with us. We knew him. We never talked to him, but we knew that that was the Birdman of Alcatraz.
But Johnson says the legend doesn't exactly fit.
The Birdman never had birds on Alcatraz. He had them at Leavenworth. Why they called him the Birdman of Alcatraz, I don't know.
Pictures of Johnson and her sisters as young girls now adorn history books and museums, illustrating a childhood that was anything but ordinary. It was a life among the nation's most hardened criminals, but Johnson remembers feeling a sense of compassion.
We were always taught that they were human beings, and if we ever encountered them, to be polite to them, but not to talk to them.
Adjacent neighbors, living only feet away, but whose realities were worlds apart. With photojournalist Craig Iglasias, Brittany Price, Good Day Lubbock.